How we looking?
We're looking good. We're on now. We're live. Um, so we'll start off. Thank you, everybody. Those of you that are coming back to listen to this. Today's podcast is why the heck didn't my offer get accepted again? Right. So these are things that we go through. Chad and I both as realtors deal with this. I'm almost certain, Chad, you got the same problem going on in Texas right now in your area, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. So realtors
Oh, Chad,
are
I think you're. I'm sorry, Chad. I think you're muted, buddy. I don't know if I hear you coming through now.
oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I was just saying realtors are having a heck of a time helping clients right now put in offers in a timely fashion once they find the property that they like. Um, and so, I mean, you talk a little bit about your experience over there, and then I'll share mine.
Yeah. So basically, in this whole thing right now, and stuff that I came across multiple times is I'll take buyers out to the property, and from the property, they love it, they like it, and then we got to put an offer in. And then what happens is we are competing with multiple offers, right? That are coming in. It's almost like an auction house, right? I mean, because essentially the best offer wins. Now, granted, a lot of people that I try to educate on this whole thing is that it's not necessarily about the price. It's also about concessions. It's also about the terms of the contract. It's a lot of various things that people have to understand what's going on in the transaction. So just to kind of speak a little bit, I'll give an example or a story, if you will. The best way to give examples are stories, right? So I actually had somebody come down to um, to look at a property. They were coming out of state to Florida to look at this property. And I had already told them a strategy that would secure the property so they could have time, because I'm afraid if they would have came down here that it would not have, uh, that we wouldn't have been able to, we've been fighting against other offers, or better yet, it might have been under contract before they even got a chance to really get eyes on it. Now, granted, virtual tours, is a popular thing. However, I will tell you, it's nothing better than seeing it for yourself if you're able to. Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna put this out there to you, is that so I had them come down, and when I had them come down and they took a look at it for themselves, um, the problem was they didn't take the strategy that I had to try to secure it in place before they came. But so the day that they came to look at it, um, we went to go look at it or whatever. And then time we got done, I called the listing agent and I said, "Hey, I'm just letting you know I'm gonna put an offer in it." And they said, "Well, just so you know, it's in multiple offer status now." And so just like that, now we're competing, right? So now you got to compete against everybody else that put an offer, that's seen it that day. Uh, it's a real crazy situation. Now, the reason why I'm telling you guys this is because I know it gets very frustrating. And Chad, I'm really interested to hear your side too. But I will say that the buyers get so frustrated because they're like, "This is the house, this is the one I want," and then they can't get it, because they're having to compete. Um, and there's a right way of competing, and then there's the wrong way of actually competing in this process, right? So, what I will tell you is that when it comes to doing that, that's why Chad and I, we have the experience to be able to know how to actually compete in a multiple offer situation. But there's also things I'm going to how to put this. Toward the end of this podcast, I'll give you an example of how there's going to be two different scenarios here. One being working with a realtor, and how the realtor, like myself, makes it to where you don't have to compete with other offers for in this situation. But I'm also going to give you the same way that you can do it yourself if you choose to. But the whole thing about this is that you're going into a situation where you're not going to get the best deal, because now having to either go higher on the price, shorten your terms of whatever the terms of, that are beneficial to you. You now got to guess because they're not going to tell you what they got. I mean, they want your highest and best. That's the point. You got to win based off of that. So that's why I said it's almost like an auction. So lo and behold, they couldn't get the house, the people that came down, and there we are stuck looking for a house within 2 days because that's all they were staying down here for. It was 2 days. So this whole thing comes with just listening and hearing out somebody has a little bit more experience. And I say this because had they had done the strategy that I laid out for them, they would have secured the house for the best deal that they wanted and then made a determination if they wanted the house at that point once they seen it with their own eyes. So there's different ways of handling it. There's different strategies to go into that situation to avoid it, either by doing it yourself or other ways I'll mention later. And these are things that I've ran into, and it's a constant. So, and then of course they're upset, they don't get it, and this kind of thing. So, Chad, is that something very common that I'm painting a picture here in your area?
Yeah, in fact, I was talking to an agent over in Houston just yesterday, and same scenario was going on for them. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
It's a little low. If you don't mind speaking up or whatever the case may be.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
It's about the same.
Okay. Well, I'm talking right here to the mic, so maybe it's not close
okay.
enough. But anyway, so I was just saying that we had an agent over in Houston was telling me that a lot of the investors are buying homes cash before retail buyers can even walk in the door. So what's happening is there's such a shortage right now of inventory that buyers are. It's definitely a new type of market that we're in that we haven't seen before. I've been doing some research as well. One of the things I learned is we're actually in what they call a K-shaped recovery right now. And what that means is that there's different industries and different sectors that are recovering faster than others, and it's causing a shape. And it's a system that we haven't seen before. And so there's a couple things that can happen right now with my clients that if a house hits the market and it's too
Oh, I
low.
lost you, Chad.
Oh, somebody's calling me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's come back. Yeah.
So if the house hits the market and it's too low, then the offers actually stack up quickly. I had one home that I showed a client, and I called the agent. I said, "Do you guys have any offers yet?" And she said, "Chad, we have 20 offers on the table right now." I said, "20?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Man." So my buyers were upset because they really liked the house and we had to go find something else. Now, a strategy that I've been doing is I'll actually reach out to agents before I even go show the clients right now to make sure that there's no offers already on the table before I even waste the time and effort going out there in this type of market, especially if it's a home that I know is in a good area and that it's going to go quick. And that's normally best practice. Some realtors don't do that. They'll try to schedule it, they'll show it, and then they'll call the agent and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, it's already under, pending option." And the MLS hasn't even had time to be updated. So we're talking about Zillow and Redfin and all that not being updated. Now the MLS, that's like they got to take their laptops with them, some of these listing agents, just to, as they're getting out there, because that's how quick it's going, especially anything under 225, 250K here in San Antonio
Yes.
has been flying off the shelf. And even some of the beautiful homes that are going in the threes and fours are going quick. And it depends on where they're at. If there's even another home in the neighborhood for sale or not. It depends on, HOA versus no HOA. Those things have a big impact as to, how fast they're going off the shelves too, because the buyers are able to It's what I call a staring contest. In fact, I just got off a call right before we got on here. I'm seeing a staring contest because the buyers want to negotiate the deal, and the sellers are like, no, I don't really need to because there's 10 other buyers behind you. And so we wanted tiles replaced in the kitchen, master bath, and in the guest bathroom. And the seller's like, we've already conceded this much. We're not going to continue down this path. I don't want to negotiate anymore. I've got buyers lined up. If you don't want it, buy. So buyers, they have a little bit of wiggle room with some things. I mean, foundation, big things, of course, right? Siding on the house, whatever. But there's not
Yeah.
much wiggle room right now for buyers to be in there trying to like willy nilly. Well, I don't like this and that. Like it's like, well, okay, go down the street.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of I seen that. I'm actually in the middle of something very similar of that situation, and it's true though. It's very true because they don't. They're at a point they don't have to give it up, right? Because the idea behind it is that the seller's kind of in a good position because the inventory is low, or they can't build enough houses in the amount of time that a buyer needs it in, right? So these are things. So let me kind of circle back into the whole point, right? The whole thing about this is, you know, why the heck didn't my offer get accepted? Okay. Again, because here's why. And this is the answer very simplistically at the same time, allowing me to go into the next, segue into the next segment here of what I'm going to talk about. But very simply is that you didn't make a good offer, right? And on top of that, you are, how to put this, you're going, and you'll know what I'm talking about once I give away my strategy essentially here. You're going after stuff that's already existing, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit in just a few. But the idea behind my whole concept behind everything that I do. Matter of fact, my business card even says it. And you could probably go look it up on. You can go look it up on Instagram, whatever. But I'm hashtag your negotiator. That's a hashtag that I came up with because here's what I do. And this is what you should do if you don't have a realtor. You got to find the leverage, right? And the only way you're going to be able to find the leverage as a buyer is to find the seller, like put yourself in the seller's shoes, right? But in order to do that, you got to be able to have the right kind of conversation, right? This is where the right conversation plays a role, right? And I say this because what's happening is this is if you're like how to say this. When you're dealing with a human, right? There's human errors sometimes that play a part into conversation, and you got to listen. You got to fine tune your ears to be able to listen to key points that they're talking about, or key points that maybe they didn't go far into it, but maybe that's enough for you to listen to. So when you're dealing with the seller directly, or even when you're dealing with a listing agent for that matter, you just got to be able to listen to what is being said. And sometimes you may get nothing, right? But you still got to do your research. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about with finding your leverage. And you're going to love this. And I know everybody's going to be thinking they're pros after I give them this tip, but this is just the way it works. Okay. So in our county, my county, which happens to be Lee County, one of the things that happens here in Lee County is that there's how to put this, there's public information that for all the property, and I'm Chad, and I'm sure you can tell me that if that's is that pretty much true in your area, like public information as far as who owns what land, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what happens is, and what I do in this situation is, if there's several situations, and one of them is that I check. I don't know if it's echoing again. I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. You're good. So one of the things is that was coming in to play is I got on a phone with the listing agent, stone cold wall, right? So I didn't get nothing. Like I couldn't even pick apart everything. But my buyer wanted, they just wanted some things fixed in the house that was minor, right? But they wanted it was their first house. They wanted to move in without any worries type of deal, right? Which most homeowners do. So that are first time home buyers. So with that being said, I said, how can I hit this? I said, I only got 1 day to get this process and try to figure out how I'm going to leverage this type of scenario, right? So one of the things I did is I went on the tax collector to see who owns it. Even though I'm not dealing directly with the seller, I just want to know who owns it, because then I'm taking some of that information and now I'm going to the clerk of courts with it. Why would I go to the clerk of courts? Because I want to see if there's any liens against the property. I want to see if there's anything going on that maybe I can paint a picture of trying to get this done, right? Well, lo and behold, when I go to clerk of courts, I find out that the seller happens to be going through a divorce, right? And so as I go through this scenario, yeah, and so as I go through this scenario, I find the leverage point that I need. So now I'm back on the phone and I say, listen, because now I know that the whole purpose of the sale is evolved around something that they just want it to be quick, fast, and easy and over with, right? So now that I got that information, I basically come back to the table and I paint the picture in a very nice way of just saying, hey, listen, this couple, they want the house, they're first time home buyers. I'm stating all the facts. I always stay on the facts. And I said, let's just, if we can just agree to fix these few items that we have on the list, it's only a couple $100. This would be like turn the page, a new chapter, right? These words that I'm saying is like telling somebody that, hey, let's just fresh start, right? That's what I'm doing. It's a psychological thing. A lot of people don't, like I said, I'm giving away a lot of secrets here. This is probably stuff that I should probably put in the book and sell at this point. But I'm just saying this is the extra mile that I go, because I want whoever I'm representing, I want to do the very best for them, right? Now, if you're an individual, this could be gold for you to go find out what's going on, Now, on the flip side of the coin, right now, I got it to go through. Just so everybody knows the wonderful story. House got sold. The couple loved it. They loved the fact that I was able to negotiate the deal to where it got everything they wanted in it. They was very happy with my services. So that's what awesome. Makes me, yeah. So that was like,
that's what it's about. That's what it's
exactly, about. Exactly. And that was what I was wrong. Now, on the flip side, I just want to say this too, is that there's been times that I go through and I find out that they have their house in the market, because if they don't sell it, it's going to go into foreclosure. Now, one thing that I'm going to tell you that in that scenario is that numbers have to make sense in a situation, right? So if they're in it for, I'm just using fake numbers just to throw it out there. But if somebody has $100,000 house and that's what they got it on the market for, okay, but in the area, the house is worth like 130. They're just trying to sell the house because they may owe, who knows, 60,000, right? And they just want some money in their pocket when they leave, so they don't have to have a bad record. They got cash from it. Everybody's happy type of deal. Now, those situations, when you run into those, you have to handle those a little differently than the way that I handled the other one. So there's pros and cons, or not pros and cons. Let me not say that, but there's ways to handle different types of research that you find from a seller standpoint, so you can bring that back to your buyer, or if you are the buyer, you use that to your best advantage. This is why we, but the whole thing is that this is what it's about when you're dealing with the buyer situation, right? So, Chad, I'm interested to see. I know that they got county records; they're public. Like we had discussed. Is there something like that to be able to look up in Texas for you to be able to really narrow down, what the situation is, or do a little bit more further research or something like that?
Yeah, we have some tools I use. We we have a CRS built into our MLS, which is basically like a customer system, so to speak. We can go in and look in certain geographical areas and find out,
Chad,
you know,
I think you went out or something there.
oh, so we're improvising here today. I think I'm driving can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is it, guys. This is, I need to upgrade. Need to give me a
That's
Cadillac.
the podcast in the making.
That's what we're doing this for.
Yeah.
So, lessons learned. Anyway, yeah. So we have a system that I can log into, and I pull public records as needed to figure out. Um, we can't get too classified with what we can find, or like we can only kind of do geographical farming, is what we call it, and figure out if there's any situations that people are going through that maybe they need to get out of their circumstance. Like you mentioned, divorce is one. There's also just foreclosures, pre-foreclosures. I was helping those people out, people who can't pay their loan payments or mortgage payments right now. Those people, they're in a forbearance standpoint where they don't have to make a payment for the next few months. I believe it was 12 months given to a lot of mortgage people who have mortgages. It was a 12-month stipulation that after that is when they had to prove that they didn't have a job, at that point. So that we're still in that window. So there's going to be some more opportunities for buyers to, get some good deals. But those properties, there's still going to be a shortage. I predict that this is going to last until the end of 2021, as far as the shortage goes, until we start to see more homes hit the market from these scenarios that I'm describing right now.
Yeah. So one of the things is so going back to this kind of full, circle back around is, you got to find leverage to be able to get your offer accepted with the best terms, right? So there's other strategies that are out there that if somebody wants to make some comments here, ask some questions or whatever, then I'll be more than happy to disclose some more strategies that would help get your offer. But now, on another note, let me kind of go on the seller side of things, right? Because we were kind of talking about the buyer side and so forth, right? So the biggest thing that you could say is like, what are you doing wrong as a buyer, right? That's something that you want to consider. And very simple. If you are the buyer and you're trying to handle it yourself, you're probably not making the best offer. You don't know how to make the best offer. You don't know how to bring it into terms. Maybe you're doing something that's just, or maybe you just don't have the right, maybe you just don't have the right real estate agent either. I mean, that could be a factor too. Maybe the experience level is not necessarily there. Maybe you need, there's all kinds of different reasons to bring this back to, as a buyer, what are you doing? But now let me just go to before I dive deeper into that, what are you doing wrong as a seller? So before I even go into the buyer side, I actually want to start with the seller first, because here's one thing that, going back to the story or the example that I gave earlier, is as a seller, you can't, I know that life happens and there's life changes that happen, whether it be a probate, whether it be a divorce, whether it be you're moving out of town, out of city, whatever it is, life does happen. And I totally understand. But if you're truly trying to get your top dollar, you're truly trying to get the best money or the best deal out of your real estate, then you need to know how to get that. If you want to go on Zillow and you want to look it up and go by the Zestimate, and then you're wondering why you're not getting the best deal, or hey, you may get lucky and they may give you an offer on the first day, which that tells me that it's too cheap at that point. But anyways, the whole point, the reason I'm picking at the seller at the moment is because I want you guys to know that there's in this market, even though you're in the upside of this, meaning that you kind of have the control of things, of the inventory and so forth and everything, there's still a connection to where just because you have the control doesn't mean that you're always going to get the best deal out of everything. So with that being said, is that you got to understand that the best deal is by knowing the market that you're in. I'll tell you something right now. You go down, you can put your house for sale. Let's just say you put your house for one, again, these are just make believe numbers I'm throwing out just to give a reference. Let's say you do your house for sale for 100,000. Little Johnny down the street says, hey, I'm going to put mine for 120. You guys are, somewhat similar in the size of house, same bedroom, same this, same lot. Everything's the same. The only difference is that, let's just say, there's less maintenance to be done with Johnny down the street. Okay. But you're trying to figure out why Johnny got $20,000 extra on the thing when you put yours up and it's already under contract. Well, little Johnny down the road already took care of their house. They did all the things they needed to do before they went to the market. And the reason why they probably did that is because they had somebody good enough, or maybe they just had the sense themselves. And I'm not trying to put down the setup by talking like that, but it's the truth. They have the sense themselves to do little things to make sure that their house is up to par before they come to market. I'll tell you right now, just in my experience, Chad, and I'll tell you this is that I'll go to a listing appointment, right? And this, again, everybody's different, but I'm picky. I'm real picky when it comes to listings, and I that's why I probably don't have any, is because I'm too picky. I've probably been to tons of listings appointment, and I never get one because I feel like I just do it. Plus I do a lot more land too in my area. It's just a lot easier too. But anyways, the whole point is this: is I go out and I'm really excited about this one because I look at it and I'm like, oh wow, this is 3,000 square foot house almost, right? And I'm like, this is beautiful. How, I'm just thinking, based on old photos that I've seen, I'm looking at, I'm like, okay, this could be a possibility. I mean, there's some things twerks in there. So I go out, I look through the house, and I kind of notice something. It's like a tilt. It's like a tilt in the kitchen. Now, this is a concrete house. So I'm trying to figure out where the tilt, what's going on. And then I see a crack on the corner of the doors. And I'm asking questions, and they're like, oh, I slammed the door too hard. I did this. I'm just thinking, crack on the door, slam the door, doesn't make sense. So I get out to the garage, and there's a crack throughout the concrete. So that's a foundation. So right down the road, though, there's a house for sale for the same square foot. You can't price your house for the same thing down the road if this one's got a foundation issue. This is the scenarios that I'm talking about. You can't compare. You got to compare an apple to an apple. But if you're comparing an apple to an orange, it's a whole different story. So the point is that when you're getting the offers, right, from buyers, and you're getting angry because the offer's too low, right? Because little Johnny down the street had it, right? I'm bringing this back full circle, so I had to go a long way around to get to the point. But the whole thing is,
you're good.
Yeah. So the whole point is that with this whole scenario, is that don't be angry because you're getting low ball offers coming through your door because you did not tell everybody up front what was going on with the house, or you didn't disclose certain things, and they go see it for themselves. And they're like, nah, this one's not for me, because I was expecting first time home buyer walking right in and everything's a go because it's a beautiful house. It's this, it's that. And it's only $20,000 less than the one down the road, when really it should be almost the problem it probably has. I mean, I don't know what it costs for that. I've never had to go through it. And one of the reasons why I just let it go is that, it's like 40, I mean, you're talking, could be a $50,000, $60,000 issue, and now you might as well just deduct that from the house and somebody else deal with it. Just, there's a lot of problems there. So as a seller,
are you talking about foundation issues?
Well, I'm just saying in regards to like if you're trying to compare your house for the same price that
Oh
somebody
yeah,
down
yeah,
the
yeah.
road
Well,
is,
I mean, yeah,
and
but
one's
you're,
bad, right? And one's bad, and the other one's nothing wrong
yeah,
with
yeah,
it,
yeah.
basically. That's what I'm saying. And people, because as a seller, they're trying to figure out why their offers, or I'm sorry, their listed price is not acceptable, I should say. Why their listing price is not acceptable for a buyer, why they always lowball it. Well, it's not acceptable because of the issues with the house versus Johnny down the road. That's the difference. So that's why I'm picking at the seller, because what are you doing wrong as a seller was one of my highlights. So this is what you're doing wrong. You're not taking into consideration everything you need to do to your house prior to getting it up on the market. And if you're going by Zillow, you're going to either overprice it or you're going to underprice it. So these are things to really to consider in that situation. Chad, I know I had to go a long way around to talk about the seller, but and have you ever had any issues like that? Like when you go to your listing appointments or whatever?
Yeah, I had a for sale by owner that I had to talk him into. Well, not, I was basically educating him on what you've covered here today. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, welcome. And if you're listening later, you can go back and rewind the point that Tyler made there. But about the sellers and comparing apples and oranges when it comes to an estimated value of your home or your property. Uh, and so I had to convince a for sale by owner one time that um, the siding and the flooring that he replaced on the house does not add that extra. He's not going to get 100% value back when he goes to sell his house tomorrow. And what I've come to learn is there's actually it's kind of a small equation that goes with things that you add onto your home. Like for example, somebody told me that and it was somebody credible. I can't think of the name at the moment, but they said, I just added a brand new tankless water heater, so that's an energy efficient item, and I paid $6,000 for it. I said, okay, great. You're going to get about 10% of that back. So, you can add maybe a $600 value. And so whenever you're pricing a home, if you don't consider some of the depreciation that goes into that, uh, then you're overpricing or underpricing, and buyers get frustrated because they're like, look, I've already told you this is all this house is worth. And I work with investors. Perfect example is investors that I work with that, we're looking for that 75, split, that 70-30 split. And it's, the sellers are like, well, my house is worth more than that. I mean, my goodness. In fact, here's a great example. And this is a quick example. I found a house on the MLS, which is rare to find an investment property that hasn't already been scrutinized by 100 investors. Well, one of my guys, he actually wanted to go take a stab at it. I mean, it probably had already been through the numbers 100 times by other people. He's like, let me just go see. He goes in there, he puts his laser down. He has one of those cool lasers that like shows you all the way around the house, like where it's off. And he just started laughing after he set it up. He was just like, wow. He's like, it's 7 feet off over here. Or like 17 inches off over here. It's like 10 inches over here, And it was just kind of an entertaining moment for me because I was like, man, this house is jacked. Like, there's no way in hell somebody paid money for this. I was like, it's barely worth the land. And to add on to the effect of the foundation issue, the reason that the foundation was so messed up was because they built a school next to this home. Well, they built a school, then they built a football field about, I don't know. I mean, it was right next door. So the football field, the water would come off the side of the football field and was rolling over underneath the house for, I mean, let's say decades, 3-4 decades maybe.
Wow.
And it just continuously inched that house over inch by inch over time to where even on a survey, we looked at a survey and the house was like 3 inches from the fence line. because it had
Jeez.
moved so far, and I mean inches. You couldn't even walk between the neighbor's fence. You couldn't even sideways. You could not sideways your wedgeway between the fence and the house. And it was this, and so now here's your perfect story for you. Is this owner, bless his heart, retired from he was actually kind of like a scientist background, worked in a museum here in the community, gave back to the community. I mean, I empathize with this gentleman. He's in his 70s. He had multiple sclerosis, and we actually got to meet and talk with him. Well, they listed the house at 135, and my guy looked at me. He sat in his truck. He did all the numbers. He has like the $60,000 sheet of numbers. He's like, Chad, he's like, I couldn't offer more than 85, 90, pushing it. I was like, really? So we go back, and I made the offer, of course, on my behalf of the client, and they just gawked at it. They were like, man, that's not even enough. They thought that we were embarrassing them to give them that offer. And it's like, going back to your point, we are the buyers. We know what the house is worth because we're looking at everything too, just as much as the sellers are. So it's been an interesting journey for that gentleman. I'm sure. I don't know if he ever got rid of it. I still don't. But yeah, he definitely had it way overpriced with that foundation issue.
Yeah, and I'm sure you got this estimate, but I will tell you that this is where you got to know, you got to know, you got to understand what's going on, right? And their offers. This goes back to why your offer isn't accepted, right? Why a offer is not acceptable or accepted, right? So as in a multi-offer situation, from a buyer standpoint, you're not accepted because the offer is not good enough, right? But from the seller standpoint, you're not getting the right offer to come through your door because you're not really knowing what to do or how to take care of a situation that your house has, to be able to make sure that whatever you're at pricing of that's where it's going to be. So yeah, I mean, it works both ways is the whole point. No matter how good the market is or how bad or how one-sided the market is or whatever it is, you got to know is the point. You just got to know. So now, one thing that I want to really now take it from the seller side to the buyer side, right? I want to kind of go into this. I will say this. I think it's echoing again, Chad. Okay, there we go. Maybe. Oh, no, it's echoing. We're going to get our technical difficulties. That's all right. We got it now. I think it's good now. So anyways, going back to it, on everything with this is that I will tell you that when we're doing certain things with the buyers. So let me give you an example of things that I wish people would really understand from the buyer side. Okay, because this is where you gotta really it makes a difference on who you have. Because remember, let me give something out there to buyers and sellers for that matter. The number one thing is that a realtor is free until they sell the house or get you until you're buying the house or whatever, right? That's the way it works. The service is free, essentially, until we get you either at the closing table, right? Because we don't get paid until we find you a house, or we don't get paid until you sell your house, right? So there's two sides to that, right? And so two things I want to kind of cover real quick is on the seller side, knowing that somebody has an experience in marketing is a huge help, right? So if you're a seller and you're looking at different agents and they have different programs set up, like I do, I have programs set up. I don't just, I don't know how you do it, Chet, but here the way I do it is I already calculate everything what I'm going to do for you from A to Z, and I let you choose what price you want to pay me at that point. And that's the way it works, right? That for the seller side, right? Now, on the buyer side, I create a way of what I call, it's one of my programs that I do. It's called Find Your Dream Home program. And what does that mean? What does that do? Well, here's essentially it in a nutshell. I find your house that you're looking for, right? And the best part about this is that I don't have to worry about, in my way of doing it, I don't have to worry about getting your offer accepted with multiple offers. I don't have to worry about that. That goes out the window with the way that I do this. And the reason for that is because I go into a situation to where I do exactly what I just said. I find your dream home. So the one thing that a lot of people don't know is your listings that are on the market, right, or have already been thumbed through, picked through, right? So whether they're on the MLS, whether it be out here on Zillow or Truly, they're already picked through. You know, you've already had maybe 500 people go through those and say, that's not for me, that's not for me. Oh, this one's for me. And that's why you end up into a multiple offer situation. I go above and beyond for the buyer with my program. I won't, online. I'm not going to go into detail on the find your dream home program, but I will say this is that it's more effective to find the dream home if every party works together, and that's essentially what I do, because there's never an obligation for a buyer to work with an agent, right? But if you come into my program, I do have an agreement that comes there because I am spending a true amount of time to really help you. So the idea behind this is, why the heck did my offer get accepted again? Well, you don't have to worry about that with this program. We go in, we give fair market value for a house, and that's it. It's find your dream home. So that's what I want to say for the buyers that are out there. That's the way that I do it. That's the way that I'm going to tell you I do it. There's a lot more to that process, but that's essentially the way it works. Sellers, knowing who you're working with, understanding who you're working with, knowing what their background is, whether it be marketing in general, whether it be digital marketing, whether it be anything else. I will tell you, and whether it be a list of people they've worked with, or maybe I have 5 or 6 investors that buy houses at a certain price, or maybe I can get, somebody to pay. Maybe you're asking 150,000 for your house, but you need to sell it quick. I got people that is willing to buy it very quickly. Okay. It just depends on everybody's situation. So these are things that I throw out there that I want people to know and understand, that why the heck didn't my offer get accepted again? It's because, again, you guys are not doing it right. Chad and I, we have some great experience combined. And I just think that sometimes I'm out there and I started this podcast to really give information out to the public to know how to do it, so you can go attempt it yourself. But I'm going to tell you, I would highly recommend having an agent involved, because there's a lot more to a real estate transaction than signing a piece of paper you don't know what's even there. Chad, have you ever had anybody come to back with the contract trying to figure out what certain things mean and so forth on the contract?
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of variables in the contract you have to understand the ins and outs of, and be aware of how that impacts you down the line. The decision that you make today may affect you 30 days from now. And you need to be aware of all the terms and conditions. And that's the job of us, right, as full-time real estate agents. And I'm here in San Antonio, Texas. I work in this area, this region. I have connections all over the nation, though, and then you're one of those, of course, over in the Florida, Lehigh Acres, Fort Myers, and that region over there, to where the contracts are different, but they're different, but they're the same. Like, it's this weird mix of letters and definitions that people really have to pay attention to. It's fun to be versed in it, because there's a lot of litigation that can happen in each paragraph. And one of the examples I'll share quickly is the most recent fumble, as I call it, is when we had the seller requested additional earnest money for the repair of a roof. Now, the cost of this roof that he repaired was $4,500, and the earnest money he requested was only $1,200. So now, fast forward, that decision that he made to only request $1,200 additional earnest money to extend the contract to fix the roof. It was this whole ordeal. I'm just giving you quick layman's terms. And so the long story short is now his money is locked up in a title company because the buyer defaulted, could not get approved for their loan, and therefore is now they did not release their side of the earnest money, which is a litigated form that you have to have both parties agree upon releasing that earnest money. Otherwise, by law, it sits at the title company escrow account, and it cannot be released until one party agrees to give it to the other, or they usually meet in the middle. Or in this case, guess what? My seller has already sold the house, right? But now he's got to walk backwards and take this buyer that fell through to small claims court just to get his, I'm going to say, measly $3,200. And you know, he already spent the money on a new roof, which the new buyer has appreciated, of course. However, when I did my comps and when I had two other inspectors look at the same home, that roof was not a replaceable issue. That that roof was an opinion that somebody just said, you know what? Yeah, it needs replaced. And just to appease the buyer, we're going to go ahead and replace it. And if I would not have known in the contract to ask for additional earnest money, he would have lost more money and wouldn't have any ground to stand on. So that's why
Yeah.
you need a licensed real estate agent to represent you in some of these cases.
Yeah, because sometimes if you don't know the ins and outs of the contracts or you don't do it enough, honestly, how many people really go and sell 10 houses, 15 houses a year? Most people buy a house and it's one and done for those first time home buyers, and then don't get me wrong, you got some people dabbling their feet out there into the waters of different things. But I honestly, I think that people just need to understand, like, hey, you want to go do it yourself. We're here to tell you that this is what it's for. We give you a lot of insight. And again, this whole podcast that we've done here, if you're just tuning in, the whole topic was, why the heck didn't my offer get accepted again? And we've covered the seller side, we've covered the buyer side. I mean, we even talked about trying to find leverage to get your offer accepted, to continue on with it, to get what you want out of what. Yeah, there's so much to this whole thing that people's got to really understand that once you're into a contract, and by the way, let me just state this. And I know we're wrapping it up right now, but I got to tell you this.
By the way,
yeah, exactly. By the way, so I want to throw this in there too, is, as a seller, so this is something I want to throw out as a seller. Keep in mind, once you sign on the line as an acceptance of saying that this is what you're accepting the contract, you can't just back out because you don't think you're getting a fair market value, or you're not getting enough for your house, or whatever it is that you thought you did so wonderfully yourself. Once you sign, that's it. There's no going back, because if you do, there is possible things can happen. You're going to invest more money into arbitration, law, attorneys, whatever. Everybody's going to get rich off of you versus you collecting the money you should have got from the original sale. So these are things. Now, I will tell you, I think that it's important and very important to understand that you guys out there that's out there listening to this, is that take the time to realize or even reach out. If you got a good relationship, well, I don't want to say that, because not every, just like not every candy bar is created equal. Neither are realtors, So I say that in the sense of basically telling you guys, make sure you get the right realtor, interview them. Of correctly. Matter of fact, I have just for you sellers, so I have a whole guide here, and this is something I use when I go on my presentation or whatever. I got a whole guide that just check marks everything. I got this from one of my training courses that I did, which was really nice. And I actually have a guide that I bind it together just to make sure you know what questions to ask, because here's the way I look at it. I know that when I give you this document here and I hand it to you, and you're not ready to sign on the dotted line with me because you think there's something or somebody better, guess what? I give you all the right questions to interview your seller or your selling agent, your listing agent. So that way you make sure you get the best agent, representing you or marketing for you or whatever the case may be. So with all that being said, I just want to throw that out there to you. Chad, I feel like we're going to go into this and kind of dismount. Did you have anything else you want to add to the conversation or anything?
Not at this time. I think you've covered a lot of ground, and we'll just save it for another day.
All right, and just as I dismount here, I just want to give the last message to the listeners/viewers. I will say this is that every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, we will be doing this podcast every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. If you're in Texas, it's 5:30 Central. So just so you guys know, if you guys tune in, listen, I'm going to read it off of where we got this podcast, actually, the viewing part of it, where we got it going out to. We got it out to Facebook Limitless Realty group. That's on Facebook. That's the page. We also got it on Limitless Realty Group YouTube. And also on mine, you just type in my name on YouTube. It's Tyler Triplett. You'll see that going out there this evening. You also got my Twitter out there. It's Tripping Over Shoe. I actually added that in today just so you guys can have it. It's on Twitter. And then Facebook, my Facebook page, which is Real Estate with Tyler Triplett. And then also my regular personal page, it's on there. I'm also pushing out to my LinkedIn, so you can look at Tyler Triplett. I think it's the Facebook page or Real Estate with Tyler Triplett. It's one of the two. It only let me go to one with LinkedIn. And then I do want to say that I was able to put it out there in another Facebook group with one of our mutual friends, Chad. I was able to throw this in there just to help out with some viewership, and also for anybody that may take this in consideration. Also got Facebook group of the entrepreneurship group. So that's actually out there being posted for all those who are listening, tuning in, whatever the case may be. Please check any of those out. Make sure you always like and subscribe and all that. That always helps us make sure that we're reaching the right people. Share the content. If you feel that this is helpful to anybody that's out there, please share the content. If you have any questions, leave your comments in any of those sites that I told you. Also, the podcast portion is on Google Podcast. It's on Anchor, and there's some other ones that are published too. Radio. There's like 50. I think there's like 50 of these mini podcasts that go out. But anyways, I just want to throw all that out there, just because I want people to know that we're trying to basically put everything out. So with that being said, Chad, you didn't have nothing else. So I'm going to go ahead and dismount the conversation. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and look for us next Wednesday. I'll see y'all then.
All right, thank you, guys.